Wow, I think I will start talking because we have real nice experienced professional in the room. But first of all, welcome to all of you. What I can see so far that we have 68, I think, Wendy, do we have 68 participants already in the meeting? That's really nice. Well, welcome to this webinar, which is organized by the Dutch compliance community in close cooperation with the European Compliance Network, where two representatives today will have a contribution. Today's theme is totally about AI, and I think that many of you have seen a lot about it, maybe even use it, but the results from the survey held last year showed that at least, under the compliance and ethics and integrity professionals, well, AI is still, a new tool, and not everybody is such a fan of this for many reasons. That's also where the program will be about. First, I'd like to give you a very small introduction to the Dutch compliance community. And of course, also a little bit of introduction to ENFCO, where at a certain point, actually in 10 minutes, so I really should talk fast, Patrick and Jenny will take the floor to give you the results of this survey. A little bit after 5, one of our very valued members, Susanne duBecker, Chief Compliance Officer of Microsoft in the Netherlands, will give you a mini workshop about responsible AI. And in this workshop, she will take you to the Microsoft journey because, Microsoft is a company who is working with AI already far that we started to get it, like, say, mainstream in our daily activities. And Susan will share her experience, but also gives you tips and tricks about the use of AI and how to use it responsible. And last but not least, we have a Q&A version which will be moderated. And that's a moment where you can ask your questions. And I'd like to ask you to put them in the chat because there are many of you, which is really great. But it will be very, let's say, noisy if everybody starts talking at the same time. And it's pretty difficult to moderate a session like that. So, who am I? I try to go to the next slide, which is a bit of a challenge. Let me see. Yes, well, I skipped one slide, but that's not that bad. My name is Michelle Visser. I'm the president of the Dutch compliance community since 2022. Let me elaborate a bit on the community because we are very much in transformation, but also due to the fact that the profession of compliance and integrity management is so much, has such a great need to further improve from a professional point of view. And it doesn't mean, of course, before you think, what is she saying, that the compliance professionals or integrity professionals are not professionals. Of course they are, but it is good that after so many years, especially in countries like the Netherlands, but also some other European countries, having a profession like this in place, it is key that we're starting to get real standards and that also the compliance communities are really involved in the increase of the whole compliance landscape. In the Netherlands, the mission of the VCO is really about knowledge sharing and connecting. And we say that, when I started in 2022, the compliance community, it was more or less called the Vereniging for Compliance Officers, which was a foundation for compliance officers. While in 2022, of course, we all know that compliance officers are not the only one anymore who are focusing on compliance or integrity risks or integrity management. So we said as a foundation, you know what? We should really make sure that that compliance management, integrity management is covered under a larger umbrella to also interact with the various industries where integrity is a fact in business. And where, of course, in the earlier days, compliance was very much focusing on regulations. Through the years, you could see it was also about risk management. And of course, to date, it's also a lot about behavior. But depending on the sector or industry you're working with, but also in which country you're in, sometimes there are different labels on the same activities. So, the VCO was founded in 2001 in the heart of Amsterdam, only available for the financial sector. And as I already mentioned, by that time, it was actually only the financial sector who were having compliance officers, but also we shouldn't forget that healthcare, because that's sometimes a bit forgotten. Very quickly, we have more than 600 members at the moment, but we're strongly growing. And why is that? Because since last year, we introduced a professional code, which also focused on what a compliance professional should be, and would also covers the fact that to date, we're not only there for compliance officers anymore, but also for professionals with a focus on ethics and integrity. Because I said again, it depends on the sector and industry you're in, what the label would be. Other quick touch points. We have an English website. If you ever want to read something, you can just go to the website. We have 11 expert groups, which you see on the left side, focusing on different topics. These are all represented by our members, which means that we have over 100 real active members with their own expertise, delivering products like webinars, seminars, white papers, articles, but of course also contributing to a seminar like this or a webinar like this. For today, Susanne is part of the expert group RegTech, which is not that surprisingly, of course, and so on. I think my time is already almost over, and if you really would like a deeper dive in the community, I advise you to take a look at our website or follow us. We have a newsletter which is also translated in English today, and that's pretty easy, of course, with all the translation machines, but you always need to validate if it's right what's there. So a very warm welcome again to our guest speakers. The first section will be covered by Jenny and Patrick, who are very valued members of ENFCO. And as you can see, I try to move forward, but sometimes even technology is leaving me. So maybe, Wendy, you can take back control, please. And then you can drive the PowerPoint and go to the next slide. Well, I share a little bit about ENFCO. ENFCO is the European Network for Compliance Officers. Well, that's of course also, again, same reason. And it's a network for non-profit organizations. And I haven't said that yet, but also the VCO is a non-profit organization. Everybody is doing volunteer work. And also ENFCO has a mission for knowledge sharing, exchanging information, but also, giving access to webinars, seminars, which are organized like this one, for example. To date, ENFCO has 15 countries represented in the community, which I think is really great. I'm not sure Jenny is one of the founders of ENFCO a couple of years ago. She was very strongly involved there. And I think it's quite a cool result to see that to date there are already so many countries participating in this community. And on an annual basis, ENFCO executes a survey. So there is a team of experts in the group, and they sit together, and every year they hold a survey in the European countries. And what they also do, and sometimes I do feel a bit embarrassed as Dutch, because even though we share so many requests, please complete the survey. This year on this survey's results, we only had 11% from the Netherlands. So I said, we should at least make sure that we talk about it. So this is one of my exchange money, Patrick and Jenny. In 2023, focus of the survey was about ESG. You can also find the results back on both the ENFCO site and the VCO site. This year, focus will lie on corruption, but last year, focus of the survey was on AI. And this group was, amongst others, represented by Jenny and Patrick. And to give you a brief introduction about our new speakers, and then I stop talking and Jenny and Patrick take the floor. I already told you Jenny Schmigale. It's quite a difficult name to pronounce, Jenny, but I do my best. Is one of the founders of ENFCO a couple of years ago. Jenny is a real seasoned expert in compliance management, but also sustainability management, risk, internal control systems, and internal audit. And how does this line sound? Yes, I collected this data with the help of ChatGPT, Jenny, what I told you already. I don't think I'm lying. It is quite a good, summary, I think, of everything you do. Jenny is head of compliance and ESG at Scandlines in Germany. And she told me that she wrote a book. She is a lecturer, but also a speaker and an author, dedicated to share your knowledge and experience. And you're very closely involved in the ENFCO community and very active. So welcome, Jenny, as a speaker. But of course, also Patrick, a warm welcome to you. Patrick has over 30 years of professional experience in governance, ethics, and compliance. And you had many, many roles. You currently work with Bayer, right? But previously you worked also for various law firms and prosecutors. I even saw that you testified somewhere, but I wasn't sure, maybe you want to share something about it yourself. Furthermore, you have many roles in the professional field of fraud, compliance, and ethics, but you are a board member of Ethics and Compliance Community in Switzerland. Well, I really, it's a warm welcome for you. We cannot applaud here, but I kindly ask you to take the floor and share your results about the survey.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for the invitation, but also the introduction. Although the introduction, I think ChatGPT exaggerated a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, it's let's get to the survey. I think that is the most important part. You're absolutely right. This was already our third survey, and we always try to be with the topics that are moving us all, right, as a compliance community. And AI, of course, is at the top of many people's minds. And yes, the mouse is working. That is perfect. So as artificial intelligence is a term that is increasingly present nowadays and is frequently on the agenda of the compliance community, we could not miss out on it. So what was the purpose of the survey? What we wanted to do is to get an overview of how AI influences compliance functions and how it's treated within compliance. We have asked questions around the sections that you see here. I'm not going to go through them because we will look at it in detail, but just to give you a little bit of the background on when we did it, how we did it, who answered it. So the survey took place last year from September to October. And we had in total a sample of 454 respondents, participants. And I'm really sorry, Michelle, I have to correct you. It wasn't 11% of the Dutch, it was only 11 participants. So we really, really hope that when we do the survey this year, that we're going to get a lot more answers, because 454 answers from across Europe, it's not really enough to make real comparisons about, how is compliance being lived differently in France compared to the Netherlands, compared to Slovenia or Spain. So therefore, also from my side, a big incentive. Please participate, because I think we can all benefit from the results. The people who responded to the questionnaire, they were fairly evenly distributed between female, male. I think it's not so surprising that 2/3 of the participants were between 36 and 55. Most of them work in compliance, but we have also a small share of respondents from legal functions, which is surely because a lot of compliance people work in legal functions, or there's some sort of a dual role there. And we also have representation across various company sizes. So it's not in sector. So it's not a pure financial sector thing. We really try to take it across the board. So having said that, let's dive into the results. And the first section we're going to look at is definition and framework. So I think, unsurprisingly, one of the key messages is AI is no longer the future, it is the present. I don't think that is going to be shocking for anyone. So it did show that artificial intelligence is integrated in, to some extent, in most companies. We had roughly 2/3 of the respondents who said that they use AI already regularly, or at least occasionally, for professional purposes. And then another 13% who do that only for personal purposes. So it is already fairly widespread. And we're going to talk about the context of AI in compliance. Here we see it's mainly process automation, decision support tools, surveillance and monitoring systems. But when we look into the details, the picture might change a little bit. But before moving on, what we do also get as a response is that more than 80% of the respondents either strongly agree or agree that AI can significantly support the compliance function. So just a few details on that could be interesting. Now so I think we had, I think this is one not so interesting. It's just everybody's using it. But this part is quite interesting. This was about what is the context in which compliance uses AI. And as I said, the top 3 here is the process automation, the surveillance and monitoring system, and the decision support tool. But if I draw your attention to the other, there you see that people answered that they also use it to draft policy and training content, simplify documents, do translations, guideline and law reviews. And my suspicion is, if we would have, and I think that was perhaps a little flaw, if we would have put in as an option translation services or content creation, we would probably have had a very, very large share of respondents saying yes, right? Or perhaps a lot of people use translation services like DeepL, which are, from what I understand, AI-based. They don't even realize that they're using artificial intelligence, right? Here we were able to do a little comparison between countries, and we saw that for Germany, Switzerland, France, Austria, Italy, Slovakia, Gibraltar, and Greece, process automation was on the top as a use case, while Spain and Netherlands seemed to use it more, and Slovenia more for decision support. There we go. One thing that is always worrying people is, of course, are we going to be replaced by artificial intelligence? And I think it was a fairly large consensus by most people that they said, no, the compliance function will never be replaced by AI. However, there's also consensus that it can greatly support the work that the compliance function is doing. Yeah. And there's also, I think, a mitigated consensus that it will replace many jobs in the future. So that seems to be a bit of a mixed bag. But an overwhelming agreement exists in saying that companies definitely need to figure out all the possible uses for AI in order to remain competitive. And I think that is unsurprising. So if we move to the next section, we have the benefits and challenges. And that is, of course, I mean, also something that we'll probably discuss a little bit more later, especially if we talk about the responsible use. So one of the questions we ask is like, what's a bit the bottleneck of the use? And here we had 36% of the respondents saying that data security is their primary concern, closely followed by transparency with 24%, and accountability also was 24%. We see as well that the biggest risk fields for AI usage are around data privacy and protection laws and AI hallucinations. We will also see that there's a little variance on how countries see that. But the majority of respondents also see a lot of benefits, right? It will improve productivity, it can reduce costs, and it can support knowledge management. That was too quick. So this one, yeah, that was just the bottlenecks. So here to point out that Austria ranked transparency as the biggest issues, while Germany and Switzerland ranked data security as a primary concern. So that is perhaps also, well, something in the mentality of the respective countries. Then the biggest risk fields, I have mentioned them already, with the violation of data privacy and data protection, AI hallucinations. And here we can also see that the perceived risk varies from country to country. So while Spain and Germany rank the violation of data privacy and protection as the biggest risk, we see that Austria, Switzerland, France, and Greece rather see that in terms of the AI hallucinations. And then we have the benefits. So I think that talks for itself. There is a large consensus on that we can have productivity gains with 87%. There's also 52% who say that knowledge management will be good, and cost reductions at least another 41%. So at least there are some who think that will help. But then AI also costs, right? So. Looking at responsibilities and organization, I think this is really a little bit of a mixed bag. So a lot of the respondents, and this might of course be tainted by the fact that most of the respondents were compliance professionals, they actually see themselves at the forefront of responsibility when it comes to overseeing artificial intelligence and compliance operations. There are also 25% who advocate for cross-functional AI committees, and another 13% suggests the creation of a dedicated function that would exclusively be responsible for AI. Now, having said that, compliance should be at the forefront, either the forefront or at least probably part of such a cross-functional AI committee, 66% also say that they haven't received training. So it's a bit difficult to be responsible for something if you perhaps don't feel that you don't master it, right? And that is also reflected in the significant challenge that there is a lack of technology expertise among compliance employees. And that, of course, poses a barrier to AI adoption in the compliance departments. And then the last part, I will just show in the details. That was just who should be responsible. We're going to jump that. And this one is, I think, a super interesting result, because this is really around the governance. So on the left-hand side, you see who should be responsible for approving projects where AI is used. And on the right-hand side, it's asking which department should oversee the data governance and the checks for bias. And in both instances, around a third of the respondents said that at the moment it's open, no clue who's responsible. Yeah, which is kind of crazy if you think that most of the organizations are already using it, right? And then in terms of the approval for AI, you see that the cross-functional team or the central compliance function are equally at 16-17% and 11% for information security and IT departments. So you cannot really see a clear trend, which department will be responsible for that mainly in organizations or typically. So that will be interesting to monitor. But what you see on the right-hand side, when it's about data governance and checks for biases, then it looks a little bit similar at the first sight, because you see IT department, well, okay, 21%, that's a bit more. But for compliance department and cross-functional AI committee is pretty much on the same level as well. But we had, for whichever reason, split out the IT department and information security here. So if you put them together as we had on the left-hand side, then you see that's actually 34% said that the IT department / information security should be responsible for data governance and checks for bias. And that probably makes sense. Yeah. Patrick, do you want to continue and take us through the next one?
Michelle, are people to ask questions while I put in or take control of the slides, or do we do that afterwards? Because I haven't seen any comments from people in the chat, but I'm okay to take them afterwards.
Yeah, I would suggest to do afterwards. We have the Q&A, of course, Patrick.
Okay.
Minutes. Let us put it there, but thanks for suggesting.
I can move forward. Yes, you can. Okay, because my slides are not really doing anything.
Just click on them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still getting used to this, I guess, time lapse. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about, let's say, the application of artificial intelligence, how it currently is, and then people, okay, how they see it in the future. So you see there that about a good quarter of the people, let's say a little bit more, 37% basically says that they use it in the compliance department. And that they mainly use it, let's say, for the creation of policies and training materials. Yeah. Then some people also said that they use it for transaction monitoring and risk analysis. Now you can probably, let's say, figure out exactly what that means, because if you look a little bit more into detail in the population of the people who participated, there were quite a bit of people who actually come from the financial services. And in financial services, you know that there's quite a bit of transaction monitoring, money laundering, and so on. Whereas, of course, in an organization like ours, transaction monitoring means something completely different. So I'm not exactly sure on, let's say, the exact who responded how, but clearly transaction monitoring is also there. Yeah. So then people say, okay, they're not using it so much because, of course, there are, let's say, some budget constraints. Yeah. I think the next slide. So trying again, clicking on it. Yeah. So the next slide here, it brings a little bit clearer, let's say, graphical presentation. So I would say the first 5 on the left is where you see the main use cases. Policy development, creating of policies, SOP guidelines. That's obviously quite easy to do with AI. Then a little bit slightly lower, people say, okay, they use it for compliance training. Then the monitoring and basically also use it for third-party due diligence. That's of course where you also have to go to huge databases and try to find, let's say, the adverse events. And there, of course, let's say the machine learning could also come in quite handy. Yeah? I don't know, Jenny, if you have more information about other. I just see other, but I don't have the details on that. But for the moment, yeah, I would just keep it on policy development and creations. I'm personally a little bit surprised on these numbers, I have to say, because I've seen quite a bit of, let's say, use cases in investigations where basically in the past, let's say, law firms or compliance have to go to thousands of emails in investigations. And now you just write a query and you basically say to people, okay, please look for cases where potentially corruption has happened, corruption with a government official does this and this. And then basically the AI goes to all the emails and it spits out the really relevant emails rather than you having to go manually to that. So I had hoped that investigation would be a bit higher, but it seems like here the audience focuses on policies. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, if we now not look to, let's say, the current situation, but if we now look to the future, and we think where AI could be applied in the future, or people see the greatest potential, then you see there, again, what sticks out is that where people say, well, transaction monitoring, due diligence of, let's say, third parties, and the risk analysis, these are where they see the greatest benefits. I could also imagine that these are the areas where currently quite a bit of, let's say, manual work is being performed. And of course, related to what Jenny said earlier, if we look for productivity gains, then of course this would be some obvious choices. Yeah? So yeah, going to the next slide here. Yeah, then the implementation status, again, with a wide population, with people from different countries, different industries. Let's say also a bit of a mixed bag. 50% of the people, they said they don't use it. Then you see that about 76% of people saying, well, we're starting to use it. We're starting to look at use cases where we potentially could use it, or we're doing some research like where could we potentially apply it. So, I mean, yeah, this is a study, of course, from now a couple of months ago. AI is going so fast these days, so it could be that potentially the numbers are now quite different today. Yeah? But clearly, it was not really very well deployed and used everywhere in the compliance department. Let's say a very minor 1.5%, which is really, really low. Now I could imagine that in Microsoft these numbers are way higher. We'll learn that from Susanne a bit later. Yeah, but it seems that clearly people are preparing for it, that they're exploring, that they are testing, and that's kind of, let's say, the main key takeaway here. Yeah. So sorry. So if you go to the actual implementation, you see there a bit, say, graphical picture. It says that, yeah, 42% of people, they're basically, let's say, testing it, creating it, applying prototypes to actually use it. And then they're also looking at, let's say, to explore it, where it could be used, right? So that's almost, yeah, 76, 77% are people really doing that. And so, yeah, I think it's everywhere. Probably people are now using it and really looking into where can it be explored in the compliance, let's say, departments. Yeah? So go to the next slide. Yeah, when you ask people now about, yeah, will AI ever, let's say, impact people's job? Will it change significantly? Yes or no? Clearly, I mean, the answers here that you see here, it will never really replace, let's say, the compliance function, people believe, but clearly, yeah, people will use it more and more, let's say, to remain more productive, to remain more competitive, to having that cost pressure that you continuously have within compliance departments. And of course, AI might alleviate a little bit, let's say, the reduction of, let's say, these cost pressures. Yeah. So yeah, compliance resources, staffing, people think it will not really change. Yeah. I think it depends a bit. I think it's very difficult here with these 450, let's say, answers. I think it depends a bit on the maturity of your organization. I could imagine, if I think, for instance, in our organization, if you think about, let's say, a more strategic functions, and there are maybe more repetitive functions, that it may be more repetitive functions, maybe the AI will basically have more impact and more people will be replaced. But if you have really the sort of strategic, let's say, thinking, let's say, processes, projects, and so on, there I would agree with, let's say, here the numbers from the respondents. Yeah, but again, it needs to be seen where you are, how big is your department, where are you based, and so on. Yeah? So go to the next slide. Yeah, then they say, okay, where would you thinking of maybe using it in the future? Where do you see the biggest potential? So yeah, I mean, third-party due diligence. Again, if you think about it, the ever-increasing amount of risk domains, right? It's not just IT security, it's not just data privacy, corruption, sanction, and so on. But now, of course, referring here to Jenny, now all the ESG related topics that are coming there, human rights, sustainability, and so on. So more and more, let's say, due diligence becomes needed. And if you have, let's say, big multinationals with, I don't know, 100 or more thousand third parties, then of course this would be a substantial area where obviously AI could be very helpful. Yeah? People also like to use it for risk assessments. And I would say, yeah, again, if you look at it, let's say monitoring, and then the fifth one, regulatory compliance monitoring. My perception is that regulatory compliance basically, let's say, probably refers to the financial service industry, where they have sort of a regulated compliance, let's say mandate, right? And if you put the two together, then of course monitoring would be even way higher. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of the main topics, and yeah, main challenges here. We can share that slide. I don't know how relevant it is, because it's not really, let's say, anything related to artificial intelligence anymore, but this is sort of what people think. Where are their challenges coming? And some people think, let's say, clearly outspoken is anything around corporate social responsibility and anything around ESG, right? I mean, the ever increasing, let's say, CSDDD and CSRD and all these reporting requirements that you currently have, I would say, around sustainability. But then also, yeah, I mean, let's say there's also mentioned here, let's say, like artificial intelligence coming on a second, let's say, second most important, let's say, here. And then also anti-corruption and data privacy remain quite high. And then, of course, there's, let's say, a list of other, and I will basically skip that. Yeah? So I would say from there, we can just open, I think, the floor, and we can start with, let's say, the whole discussions and taking, you know, Q&A from the audience here. Yeah? And of course, I also like to thank you, Michelle, for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to be here, right?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Patrick and Jenny, for this. Well, it was short, but I think we can talk for 3 hours about it.
Exactly.
And we can redo it again. You know, a webinar, organizing a webinar is not that bad. So thank you so much for your contribution. The Q&A will start in half an hour, because now I'd like to give the floor to Susanne duBecker. We may want to go to the next slide. Susanne, I didn't use ChatGPT or anything to, you know, make an introduction for you, because we know each other for a longer period as professionals as well, but you're a very valued member also of the compliance community. You're very supportive in professionalizing the function, but also the community in itself. Susanne is Global Risk and Compliance Director with Microsoft. Yeah, I think you turned into the compliance area somewhere around 2012, right? As I recall it. But you've also worked a very long time, let's say, on the floor. We call it with the feet in the mud. I'm not sure if that's a proper English expression. Today, you're going to give us a mini workshop on responsible AI, but we will definitely see you much more. So Susanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thanks for everybody for coming. So yeah, I could talk for hours about this. There's a lot to say. I had to take a 2-hour presentation and pare it down as much as I could. But what I wanted to do is just walk through. This is basically Microsoft's story. We've been doing this for 6 years, and so you can imagine that we've learned some things as we go along. To set the story a little bit as well, I am a global risk and compliance director for Microsoft for the supply chain for cloud. So you can possibly imagine what a nightmare that can be, because I'm in the supply chain. And AI is a hot topic across the whole company. This is what we really promote, as you know. Anybody that uses Microsoft, which is 99.9% of you, will know that we use AI. So I want to start with a little video, because I think this is very relevant. So Wendy, if you could play the little video, please. And thank you.
Good morning.
watch me.
Just watch me now. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. Just watch me now.
Thank you, Wendy. So why do I bother playing that? Because it's cute marketing hype, which is, Microsoft is good at that. But the reason that I play it is because this is not tomorrow's world. This is today's world. And we have to put our heads around it for the fact that this is happening now. And I was listening very intently to what was being said earlier, because I haven't seen the results of the project earlier. And it just actually made me smile because it validated what I'm about to tell you or discuss or share with you. AI is across everything. It's your chatbot that you get when you go to Amazon or some of the websites that you shop at. It is transactional when you're looking at financial reports. It is, you use it for contracts. You want to check a contract, use AI. Now, you can use Copilot or you can use the Google one. I'm not going to name them. But you can use all of the ones that are available. AI is across everything. So we cannot get away with it and we cannot hide from it. But also in the same vein, we have to be sensible about what we're talking about. So let us talk about what it's all about and we'll go from there. I won't go through the agenda. I think everybody can read, so we'll move on from there. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea to just start out with what is AI? Well, AI, basically, you have to have algorithms, data, so large data sets. You need to have a computer or computing power, and it has specific objectives. So we all know that you have your examples of Siri, Alexa, or Netflix, Spotify, Tesla self-driving, the chatbots, and your facial recognition. That's where we are sort of just now. We're here at this moment now. But let's talk about what next we could look at. There's AGI. Now, I'm going to use terms that a lot of you probably don't know about, but it's theoretical AI, and this is already being talked about. So this is learning ability. It's actually where you learn the subject without task-specific programming. It's about reasoning and problem solving. It's about consciousness and self-awareness and adaptive learning. These things are being developed now. And so there are some examples. Samantha from Her, it's an AI operating system that develops consciousness. Sophia the robot. Now some of these are science fiction, but ChatGPT-4 isn't. And some of you may already use it. And that's an advanced language model which demonstrates broad understanding. Now, we're still in the early days and we know it. So let's go to the next one. What's ASI? Well, that's tomorrow's world, and that's probably quite a few years down the road, but this is where it's heading. It's scary because I can't quite get my own head around it, but it surpasses my own intelligence. And I like to think I'm a little bit smart, but I might not be. But it's self-improvement. It builds upon itself. It's got cognitive abilities. It has emotional and social intelligence. And it has ethical and moral reasoning. I mean, come on, we're talking about an algorithm here. But there are science fiction books, of course, because it's not reality yet, but The Minds from the Ian Banks Culture series, which is about hyperintelligence AI, and then Transcendence and Transcendence, which is about AI merging human consciousness and superintelligent capabilities. Now, we can all laugh because, I don't know, some of the generation here may have grown up with Star Trek, one of my favorites, I must admit. But, you know, we're doing a lot of things that the Star Trek had that you wouldn't have thought you could possibly do. This is going to happen tomorrow. So this is where it all sort of comes from. And Microsoft decided, can we have the next slide, please? So what they looked at, next slide, please. What they looked at was, it should be 6 years ago now, Microsoft looked at doing AI, and they basically said, how are we going to do this? So they created the Office of Responsible AI. And that was basically sort of, if you can imagine, whatever the size of your company, it might be a company of one or it might be a company of hundreds. But across whatever you did, they brought together the people that manage different areas. And they said the team needs to come together and work out, how do we actually do some of this AI stuff? Look at use cases, how do they build it? How do they manage the demand, etc. Now, I work for a tech company, so for us, this was going to be part of our world and our business. But we had to do it the right way. So they also said, we have to do it according to principles. We can't just, throw stuff out there and say, whoopee, here we are, because actually we don't know what we want ourselves. And that was part of our journey as well, because AI is a journey that doesn't finish. There is no finishing line to AI. So we call it, our principles continue to function as our enduring North Star. And basically our North Star is, how far are we going with this? Now, in the presentation, there are some feeds to LinkedIn and our own Microsoft website. Feel free. We've got a lot of data on our website that can show you some of what we're doing, what we have done, why we've done it, and it might give you some ideas. Whether you use Microsoft or not is up to you. I'm not here to sell my company. Everybody knows who we are. But I am here to explain that we really do believe in what we're doing. Can I have the next slide, please? So, the whole thing about AI for us is there's generative AI, and most of you, and I'll talk about it later, most of you know what Gen AI is. A bunch of data, algorithm, sort it out, make it easy. That's what generative AI is. It's all about data management. But many times there are things around responsible AI. So we said, well, we need a set of principles. What is a set of principles? And that was drafted in 2016. We called it through the Ether Council, which was basically what they called the council that came together. We needed to have policies around it. So you need standards and guidelines. And we realized at the time that you have to have multidisciplinary. You can't give it to Frank in finance and say, here, Frank, go and deal with AI, or Joe in IT. You can't do that. It doesn't work, because Joe in IT is looking at his vertical of what he needs to do for IT, and suddenly you just chuck him this thing called AI and he's going to look at it because it's technical. It's not. It's multidisciplinary. And then you have to have inclusive recognition. So there is a wide stakeholder set. Who is all involved? Your board is involved, the audit committee, finance, procurement, sales, marketing, vendors, non-vendors, supply chain, manufacturing. It could be any of those. And yes, here's the dreaded word that your board hates to hear: investment. Yes, we need to put a few pennies around here, people. And Microsoft is no different to any other company. We have to go in with a very good business case. So there was a link here which was showing 5 years of our responsible AI, but it's on LinkedIn. So please feel free to go in and have a look. Next slide, please. So here's the framework, and I'm just zipping through this, but I'm quite happy to talk about this again, either one-on-one or a separate occurrence. But here's the governance framework. We try to make it simple. On the outside, you've got monitor, audit, compliance, and reporting. I mean, all of us here are compliance professionals. We know what we're talking about, but we start with our RAI principles at the nucleus. We come out and say, what are our policies and standards? How do we implement, train, communicate, test in order to match everything that we're talking about? Next one, please. We spoke about this earlier, but these are examples of Gen AI, generative AI in daily life. Bing, Google, Netflix, Spotify. I don't know about you, but it sort of disturbs me every so often when I've been watching a detective series on Netflix that it says, you might enjoy watching this. Or I'm sitting in the car and suddenly Siri starts talking to me. I mean, it scares the living daylights out of me sometimes, and I should be aware of it. And I do get a kick out of ChatGPT. I know it's one of our own tools, but I have fun with it. So you can have fun and enjoy it as well, but you have to understand its limitations. And that's all generative AI. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at the approach. Now I'm starting to get to the meat and potatoes. This to me is my money slide. This is how Microsoft runs our AI within Microsoft across the entire organization of 173,000 people. And you can do it with one, or you can do it with 173,000. We have a board who make the ultimate decisions, of which I'm not even party to. You have your executive leadership who then try to manage what the board and them are talking about. And suddenly you have this giant area of responsible AI. There are 400 people in this group of responsible AI. I will let you know that now. And that comes from every function that we have across Microsoft. We have team leads who actually work within their different functions, representing their function into the office of our AI. We have senior leaders who help train. We have sponsors who help manage different projects. It's all in the area of responsible AI. And then underneath it, it's held up with, you need to have research and development, and what are you going to do and how are you going to do it. You can't get away without having guidelines, policies, standards for operation, paying attention to rules and laws. And then, of course, well, I work for a company of 85% engineers. I'm not going to get away from them, no matter how much I try. I'm stuck with them. But look at the left-hand side. Hello, compliance. Now, I am very much a proponent of, I don't own a lot of this. I wouldn't know what to do with a lot of this. I think my engineers would lock me in a cupboard if I came near them. But what I do is I do use my cattle prod to make sure that they are delivering what I require. Have you got the right use case? Have you looked at this? Have you coordinated with that? Where are the statistics for what I need to be doing for this? How is it matching what it is that we said we would do? What is the scope of the question that we're looking for? And does it involve people? Because our AI is all about people. It's responsible AI. Oh, I was trying to flip the slide. Sorry, can I go to the next slide, please? Do you remember I spoke earlier about the principles? These are our principles. They're fairly simple. They're not, obscure. I mean, the fairness, we say we have to be fair. It has to be reliable and safe. We have a very high level of privacy and security. As you can imagine, with Microsoft, we have to. This is our business. We are very inclusive in how we operate, and that's not just from people think inclusive, that's DEI. No, it's not. It's also about inclusiveness with stakeholders, with communications, with suppliers, with customers. You have to be transparent. You cannot do something like this and hide it all behind a wall and say, well, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to keep it here and not tell anybody, and then we're just going to launch it. No. And then the bottom one, we really made a point of it. Accountability. Because what happens is people will get involved and then the accountability disappears. Oh, it wasn't me, it was Fred. It was Jane. It was, no, you have to take accountability. So that said, if you go to the next slide, it breaks it out a little bit more. So this is just broken out for us. This is for Microsoft. You may have something completely different. But we say under accountability, we have to make sure, we have to look at an impact assessment. How does this impact us as a company, as a function, as a group? Or the oversight, is it fit for purpose? A lot of people don't ask that question. A lot of people just suddenly come out and there's like 100 use cases. I have to have this. But it might not even be fit for purpose. You have to look at governance and management and human oversight. A lot of people forget that. They just like, yeah, we want to invent this. We need to have it now. And, you know, the rest doesn't matter. Is it transparent? We look at the communications. That's critical. Disclosures of the interaction with other areas because you have dependencies. And is it intelligent for decision making? Is it fair with the quality of service? And you'll see that with the example that I've got coming up. Minimization of stereotyping, we do not believe in that. And is it reliable and safe? And I've actually got blue here because I actually manage and measure the compliance across the ones colored in blue. So as far as I'm concerned, I have KPIs and KRIs for compliance. Do I have proper security policies in place? Are my accessibility standards correct? And what about failures and remediations? Because not everything is going to be a success. But this is how we look at it. Next slide, please. The governance at Microsoft, so the safety board as we call it, it's just basically where it is required. There is a review on a monthly basis, and it looks at all first-party Microsoft products and research that develop, deploy, or integrate generative EAI capabilities. Simply because we want to make sure that we are responsible in what we deliver. What you want to do may be slightly different. It's up to you. This is what we do. We then make sure what we had links here, but this is internal. Basically, we have the governance at Microsoft. So there was a little video showing you and talking to you about what that was, and then empowering responsible practices. So we set up our own internal SharePoint site. So we have our own website that we can use where we actually store some of the lessons learned, what you can do, who you can talk to, how you can do it. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, there's work there. But anything worth doing is worth doing right like this. Because for us, this is part of our world. And we realize that when it comes to looking at something about AI, these things have got to be done. I also heard a lot of things, and people say to us they're worried about their jobs. What do they do? Will it still be here? Our jobs, some of us, our jobs will disappear. There is no doubt. But that doesn't mean you will be out of a job, because our jobs will change. And that's the whole thing. No, we won't be out of work because there's going to be more than enough, because what we will be doing is different. And I think that's how we need to look at it and how we need to think about it. The things that I am doing are different to what I did 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm pretty sure in 3 or 4 years, it would be different again. So I think taking some of that fear away of people when they're looking at some of these things is important. How much longer have I got, Michelle?
Still got 5 to 10 minutes, Sue. Just keep on going.
I'm going to keep going. Okay, next, please. So I'll spend some time on this, and then the rest we can just zip through. This is where the rubber meets the road. When we talk about responsible AI, a practice here. So responsible AI, let's say you have a whole bunch of hospital administrators, and they want to do the scheduling programs. You know, when you do the scheduling plans and when anybody's going to work and how they're going to work. Normally, you would say, okay, if we've got generative AI, stick it in there, the data gets mixed up, and it shoots out a plan. Hey, that's when everybody's working. Yeah, well, what are some of the harms that could come on that? Well, what about reliability and safety? if the stakeholder finds that there's a lot of manual changes have to be made because Frank can't work because he's got a wedding, Susan can't work because the kids are in school and she can't work before 3 o'clock, etc., etc., generative AI does not look at that. So now they're making a lot of manual changes, and you know what it's like. When people don't like a tool, they won't go back to using it. Accountability. A lot of nurses have negative feedback because the stakeholder may feel disproportionately accountable, and they spend a lot of time trying to fix this thing that we supposedly had to do the rescheduling plan. And what about we don't have any information that Susan's got 15 kids and has got to be able to take them to school in the morning, or Frank's got to get off at 3 o'clock and go do something else. It's all about understanding the negativities that could cause harm, not only to the product, but also to yourself. Because people need to feel included. So if you look at the nurses themselves, so the administrators, well, we've started off by harming them because they have all these things. The nurses want to be held that it's fair for them. They already know how they want to work. So do the shifts actually align with their expectations or what they were actually agreeing to? So it is asking the next question that is important here. And that helps bring you back to responsible AI. Spend time up front working on it, and then people don't fight it. They'll accept a few minor mistakes, but they won't fight it, and then they'll use it. But if you get it all wrong up front, out the window. People aren't interested. Next slide. The challenges of creating it. Next slide. I won't spend a lot of time, but as you can imagine, setting it up is a bit of a nightmare because you have to find the right people you might have to hire in or get experts in. It's very abstract. What do I want to do and how do I want to do it? How about the value selection? I'm not sure about who's responsible for what. And operationalizing that success matrix can be a bit difficult. What is the measurement of success? Is it getting a bot or not getting a bot? And then a lot of times in most companies, I don't know if yours is the same, but I should imagine it is, there's fragmentation because there's always functions that don't want to work with you. And then a lot of work has to be done with internal advocacy. So tone from the top is important to help drive this. And this is where compliance comes in because we're one of the few functions that goes across the top of all the other functions. So we can help drive. We don't own, but we can help drive. Next. I won't spend any time on this because you can read, but AI started in 1950. 1959, it got to machine learning, and then there was a big break until 2017 when suddenly things started to heat up a little bit with deep learning, and now we're in the realms of generative AI. So it has come a long way. We've seen it in the movies, we've talked about it, we've had a little bit of story, but that was where we are today. Next. This is some data that was taken from the Work Trends Index of 2023. 64% of employees lack the time and energy to do their jobs. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. 3.5 times more likely to struggle with strategic thinking. 70% would be more than happy to delegate work to AI. I know I would. And 60% of leaders say the lack of innovation is a concern. So you're not even bringing ideas to the table about how you can do things. And some of the things that I actually work with is looking at policies. I have AI write all my policies. I don't have them produce them. I have them write them, and then we redline them and we review them and we make sure they're correct. Because the one big thing I keep telling everybody, verify, verify, verify. Because if you go out on the internet and you troll the internet, you're going to get garbage as well. So you need to responsibly make sure that the data and the information that you are using is correct. But you can look at contract management as well. You can look at manufacturing. You can look at demand capacity. You can look at a lot of things using AI. Don't try to solve the world in the beginning. Small steps. Next. Prerequisite steps. You need to understand your historical data. For us, review your security environment. For us, that's very, very important, as you can imagine. And then data cleanup. Good Lord, we have a lot of data, but you know and I know that a lot of our data that we have in any of the companies, yeah, some of it is kind of, questionable. Next. One of the things that we're doing, and I just put this on here very quickly, not very well by the look of it, is that we're creating COEs within the company, because sometimes if you have large functions, if you're in a medium to larger group, you might want to have a little center of excellence. So if you can't have the big RAI like I was talking about, you can have a smaller one, which is more like a center of excellence. So we've been talking within our group about doing a lot of use cases. Suddenly, 85 of them appear. I mean, good grief. So we said, wait a minute, no. We're going to need to tail it down here and take a real look at it. So we have a risk lead, compliance, as you see, is in there. Make sure of it, and then you get your subject matter experts. It's up to you how you want to organize, but you can't do it as a world of one. It has to be done collaboratively. Next. Oh, yay. Questions? I'm so sorry. I went as quick as I could.
You did great job. Everybody stayed in time. Thank you so much, Susan. So yeah, I'd like to open the floor now for questions. People can also raise their hand in their screen. I think we can see it, right, Wendy? Or otherwise, please share your question in the chat if you want to. I have not seen any questions so far. So maybe I can start with the first question to you, Susan, reflecting on the AI survey performed by ENFCO last year. One of the results says that only a small amount of people expect that, the AI will reduce let's say, the roles, the jobs, right? I think it's about 14%. Patrick already elaborated on that, but you also showed some results. How do you see the connection here? Do you really think there's less compliance professionals, or that they maybe should change things?
No, it's like I said earlier, our jobs will change. It's going to have to change. It's like it's changed from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. AI, look, at the end of the day, AI is a tool. It is a tool to help enhance what it is we need to be doing, whatever that is. And so we will be able to use it in different ways to make different decisions, and in order to then expedite what we need to do for the business. So no, I don't agree that compliance people will be out of the job. Social scoring. Oh, sorry, I saw a question come in. I'm sorry, I went straight for it.
Go ahead.
I think from that perspective, we have to be prepared for it's a job change. That's all it is. I don't see us as declining. If anything, I would say it would increase, because people will be very aware that they don't want AI to take over things. They don't want it to create problems ethically or morally for companies. I think that's important to be aware of. So I think from a compliance perspective, I actually see it as possibly increasing.
Okay. That's good, thank you. And I think it's nice, Adriana Bergeon, it's always difficult to pronounce your name. Adriana is also one of the co-producers of the survey, which was just represented by Patrick and Jenny. And she has a question for you, Susan. I think it's for you, actually. Could MS products powered by AI be used for social scoring? And what is the perspective of your AI office on this?
What is social scoring?
Well, maybe Adriana, you can, elaborate a bit on it yourself. You can open your microphone if you want to. Maybe you're mute. I don't know. I can't see you, but
I think she refers to the social scoring
Yeah,
they do in
hi.
China.
Hey,
There.
can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can hear you,
I'm not
Adriana.
okay. Hopefully the background noise will not be too bad. And also, I'm in a tunnel on a highway in Germany, so hopefully you'll hear me well. So, social scoring meaning using personal data of people. You know, obviously Microsoft has a large number of privacy data also, and deployers of your products powered by AI could potentially use this data for social scoring on the organizational level or on the level of, higher entities. And social scoring is something that is prohibited by the current European AI Act. So I wonder whether your products could be used for this purpose or misused even. And yeah, so that would be the definition as I understand it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Adriana. And it's a good question. Look, there are bad people out there all the time. That's why we actually have a job. Because we have investigations, we have follow-up. Yeah, there are bad people out there who don't care about RAI. They don't care about people. No, Microsoft will not use it for social scoring because we actually have quite a heavy privacy group, and they're pretty tight on making sure that we don't do the wrong thing. Will others use it for the wrong thing? I don't know. I cannot speak for other people. Is the software designed to be able to do that? We try very hard to build in things that can stop those things from happening. That's part of what our engineers do. So if you ask it bad questions, you usually will not get an answer. But I can't say 100% that bad people won't get around it, or they will rewrite software in a similar way for the dark web. Nothing is sacrosanct with bad people, as you know.
Yeah. Understood. And you answered exactly what I was asking. So I was aiming to the design part. So are you doing anything actively to really prevent in the design itself?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Absolutely. They have complete teams who look into that, and what they do is they actually then go out on the web as well, and they look to see how it's being used on the web. And these are, look, I love my company, but we've got some real geeks in there, and they're wonderful. They go out and really source some of that and try to make sure that when they update the software, that they try to eliminate some of the things people are doing.
thanks. Thank you. I think that was I hope that there was an answer to your question, Adriana. Yes, I see your thumbs up. I don't see questions yet, so maybe people still need to think about it. But I have another question for you, Susan, which I hear a lot from other, let's say, colleagues of yours working for international companies, is that some of them don't even have like an ethical board yet, if it's about AI. Can you elaborate a bit on that? Or maybe also Jenny and Patrick, you work for international large corporates. Do you have an ethical board already in place with respect to AI?
Let Jenny and Patrick go first because I've been chattering for too long.
No, you're right.
The answer is very simple, no.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure in Bayer that it's, let's say, there is a sort of, let's call it a sort of bioethics council, but they look more into, let's say, wider ethics issues. But I think it's more on the use of data, probably with clinical research and some of the data like that. I'm not sure that these folks, they're all coming from outside the company, specialists in healthcare and professors left and right and so on. So it's an outside board, but I'm not sure that they are specialists in AI. So AI might only be marginally maybe part of that. Of course, we have principles on the responsible use of AI, but I don't think, let's say, in terms of We don't have any particular, let's say, board levels, or what you call executive leadership on these kind of levels. For us, it's more on a, let's call it sort of, let's say, digital applications, where a lot of these things needs to come together. And there you have then representatives of different divisions, different functions, and so on, which look into that. I don't know how efficient it is, because I think there could be quite a bit of backlogs, people getting all these requirements and trying to deal with that. So I think to answer your question, it's not a full 100% yes, I think, but I think it's probably, let's say, partially covered, let's say, at least for the use of data when it's about healthcare and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And for Microsoft, no, we don't have a separate board. I think it goes back to our values and character of the company, that it's part of our value chain, but then also it's incorporated within our principles, as you saw. We looked at fairness, we looked at ethical behaviors. And then my example was really about ethical behavior as well, from the responsible side of looking at understanding what the impact is on the human when you incorporate AI. And that is an ethical behavior. Now, we don't have a separate team that do that, but we do, that's part of our AI when we look at things.
Okay. Thank you. Is anybody else who'd like to elaborate on this? I just ask in the open. You can always leave your note in chat. We still have a couple of more minutes to go. Yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Susanne, if I may. I mean, let's say, I mean, what basically we see a little bit in our organization, and I think it's a bit of a challenge in general. So in the past, at least, in our organization, we saw people, let's say, coming to compliance for certain processes. What you now see is that they empower more and more the business, so that people can take a lot of decisions themselves. Now, how do you see that with AI, right? Because if you go that with AI, it's a bit, let's say, okay, we need to come to certain people. Certain people would have to look into the intellectual property rights, and we're not really violating this, and we have the licenses and so on. Or do you go that far that you sort of, let's say, create all these responsible, I don't know, champions or whatever, and you give it to these 600 people and they take care about the rest of that? How far is, let's say, your risk tolerance level in, let's say, pushing that into the business, and how much sort of, let's say, control would you like to, or monitoring you would like to establish?
Well, we're a tech company, so our risk tolerance is quite good. We've got quite a good risk tolerance, but a healthcare wouldn't and a bank wouldn't. So you have to have a lot more monitor and control on it. And when it comes to making sure that, this is where I go back to compliance, driving and monitoring, because I think that's where our role changes. Because previously our role was really about governance, training, code of conduct, regulatory practice, etc. But now I think it's about, or maybe it's just because I grabbed the reins and ran with it, is basically saying, hang on a minute, you're responsible for this, Mr. Finance, but I need to ensure that it's done the right way. Where's the status? Where is the linkage? Where is the coordination? And then you do it across, the matrix should go that way across. And I think that's where compliance plays a big role, because as I said earlier, it's one of the few positions within a company that has a touch point with every area: sales, marketing, procurement, HR, whatever. And we really are in all those areas. So if we have our nose in all those areas, we have, I would say, a responsibility to then make sure that all the programs that we are doing, that we have some sort of governance around it and how we operate and manage it.
Thank you. We're almost finishing. Oh, there is a question. Now I need to turn on my glasses. Now I'm going to read it. I think it's from Geert. Thank you, Geert, for your question. I'm not sure what it's for, but yeah, you can all read it. But for those of you who don't have chat open, it says, according to EU AI Act, when you use AI for high-risk activities, a human has to be able to explain how the AI comes to conclusion. Some of the AI tools that we currently use, like ChatGPT, are closed systems, and we don't know how they work for come to a conclusion. So my conclusion would be that you can't use tools like ChatGPT for high-risk activities. Is that correct? And would one of the speakers elaborate on that? Okay. And which type of compliance activities would be high risk? Third-party due diligence, for example. Okay, those are more questions in there. So who would like to respond to that? Susan, you want to start, or Jenny, or?
Tools are tools. Why can't you use ChatGPT for high-risk activities? If it's ring-fenced within your own organization and is not open to going outside, why not use it? Do you remember I spoke earlier about verify, verify, verify? ChatGPT helps just pull the information and data together. It is up to you as the human to then validate and verify what it is that you are reading. Because then that helps you make the decision. And then you could use it for third-party due diligence. I've used it in various areas for contracts, for policies. I am looking at it for third-party due diligence, depending on the type of due diligence I'm looking at. Yeah, you could use it for anything, but you have to be very careful and very aware of what you are using. Again, it's a matter of understanding what you're doing and how you're doing it, what you're sharing and what you're not sharing, and then verify, verify, verify.
Thank you, Susan. Can I just elaborate on that follow-up as you are just giving us this response? One of the responses in the survey was related to the training, right? So I think that 66% responded in the survey that they did not have any training on the use of AI. What would be your, well, let's put it the other way around. One of the law firms here in the Netherlands train their people to use Harvey, which is this US, well, you know, is this US legal database with Copilot. Yes, that also reduces, of course, the work in the hours, but yeah, the role changes, right? So they have good training, I think is provided by the CIO or something like that. But of course, not all of us have a CIO or, you know, have a set of training provided. What would be your suggestion, even if people are just, you know, alone in organization, to start getting themselves trained on AI, the use of AI, sorry?
That's a really good question. There's a lot out there. Yeah, some of it's rubbish, but go to some of the bigger web. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Okay, look, I live in the Netherlands. I'm pretty direct. You can use, I will go to Microsoft website. We've got a lot of data on there. Go to LinkedIn. There are some really good training courses on LinkedIn. I must say, even I'm surprised. And I'm going to say it, I know it's kind of stupid, but YouTube have got some good cases as well. So spend your time and look around, and then talk to colleagues. We're compliance people. Compliance people talk to each other. They share things. That's what we do. So if you know somebody that's maybe got a skill set for it, go for it. If you know somebody that's got a teenager, talk to them as well, because they're usually way ahead of the curve than anybody else. It's actually stopping and thinking about what it is that you're trying to achieve that will give you the results that you want and where you can go. But I would recommend LinkedIn, and I will say our own site. I think Google have got some good stuff as well, although I haven't really gone for it because I work for Microsoft and I've got enough on my own plate. But I think there are some good things out there to go look at.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I think it was nice as a final, let's say, suggestion also, to give it a deeper thought. We're going to wrap up today's session. Unfortunately, you could see time flies. The good news is that this video was recorded. I'm so sorry, I should have mentioned it up front, but I think that only proper and very good things are discussed here. So if you feel you don't want to have it published, let me know. So the link will be shared with you very soon. First of all, I'd like to thank the speakers, Jenny, Patrick, and Susan. This was really valuable and good fun. So I think we should do this much more often. So I think I already pre-invite you, Patrick and Jenny, for next year's survey results where we organize a webinar, or at least on corruption. So hopefully the Dutch participants will also, contribute a bit more. For the participants, please note that the survey results have been very nicely wrapped up in a white paper, and it is in English, so it's readable for everybody. We will also share that one on our website. Secondly, the slides for today will also be shared via a link, which will be shared with you for those of you who participated. And for the Dutch VCO members, I have good news for you, because our summer event this year will also again focus on the double lens of AI and ESG, as what we did, of course, in our New Year's event, because it is a big topic and there is a lot to learn. And this time, as a board, we decided that we will provide some workshops for you that you can learn how to further work with AI and the use of AI. So I hope to see a lot of you, Floris, physically in Amsterdam. So thank you so much all for joining. Also, of course, our own team organization, Wendy, Grace, Gina, Esther, and Manon, you did a great job in all the preparations. So thank you for that as well. And of course, for the participants, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. So for now, have a nice day and see you next time. Bye.